Just to recap last week, I thought we had a solid performance. Kickoff, certainly we had a chance to pin him inside the 20 there. We just got to get off the block and make some plays there. Kickoff return, we're close. Julius Chestnut, the last couple of weeks, has done a solid job, done a really nice job, catching the ball, getting vertical. We're close. He keeps his feet on that first kickoff return. It's another 10, 15 yards at least. Punt, I know punt in particular, some young guys stepped up. Bryce Oliver did a nice job filling in for Hardy, who was a late scratch with an injury. And so, seeing him, a rookie, rise to the occasion, go down and make a tackle at a critical point is huge. In punt return, it was nice to see Q, bust from 1 for 20 and then, draw a penalty and get a 15-yard on top of it and really flip the field position there. So solid performance. Certainly there's things that, we can clean up and we'll do that.
Get Jaquan a little more aggressive, I guess, in fielding them in your eyes?
Yeah, he's done a nice job. There's multiple times in the season he's made those plays inside the 10 where, he and KB do a great job, studying that during the week and seeing, if there's something that a particular gunner's playing. In plus 50, it's typical that the kick side gunner is going to go behind, and then it's up to him to see if that guy's going to retrace and be on his back hip, and then if that backside gunner is going to front him up. So it's something we study, and he's done a really good job. And yeah, you could argue that he's aggressive there, but like the decision he made.
Him and Julius kind of a 1A, 1B situation now in the kick return situation.
Yeah, just, putting them left and right, just kind of dictating, anytime you play inside, you don't know where that ball's going to be kicked. That's a weapon that kickoff teams have, is just pinning them left or right. So, there's going to be times where we don't know where the ball's going, so we'll just put them left and right. But certainly Julius has done a good job.
Coach Callahan's talked about, improvement under the surface. What does that look like for your guys in your group?
I think it's just the attention to detail, and then the right mindset. Guys have rose to the occasion. One guy in particular I don't think that gets mentioned enough is Luke Gifford. He's really stepped up his game, and I think he's top 10 in tackles and special teams, and just the accountability aspect, and not letting their brother down. It's been kind of fun to watch, but just accountability and attention to detail, and holding everybody to the high standard.
View maybe encouraging for you as he continues to try to stack solid performances?
Yeah, I think he played really well for the most part. There's a couple of things he wants back, but I thought he managed the game really well. Kind of found completions. I thought that first third down was kind of a big moment for him. They all drop past the sticks. He kind of just throws it down to the flat, lets Chig go get it for 11 yards when we're behind the sticks. So rather than kind of jamming it in there. So I thought that was a really good moment for him. And then with him and Nick at the end of the game and kind of hitting some of those passes at the end, they hit the big one for the 90 yards, but the other ones where he just kind of took what was there. He didn't try to do too much. And so I think that was a really a lot of growth from him, and he's done that the last 2 weeks, so hope to continue to build on that.
He was talking about what a low percentage of conversions actually come from throwing
past the sticks,
beyond the sticks.
Yeah.
He said 10%, which sounded extraordinarily low. Is it that low?
It's low. It's really low, but sometimes you can set everybody at the sticks and then kind of throw, maybe wrap somebody behind them. There's always still kind of that post safety back there. But for the most part, it's not very high. So that's why we talk about staying efficient so much, is if we get in those 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 12s, the completion percentage is so low, and it's even lower if you're trying to throw it past the sticks. So that's kind of been the completion mindset. It almost turns into a punt return at times for a guy like Chig or some of our guys that are good with the ball in their hands. If you can get into them, they make one guy miss, all of a sudden they get it. So, but yeah, it's the 3rd and extra longs are pretty low percentage at this point.
Feel like, I know Minnesota would put an emphasis on stopping the run, but why do you feel like the run game's not been kind of up to speed the last couple of games, and other than Mason's scramble against Detroit, not had a rushing touchdown since the Colts game?
Yeah, and going back to starting with the low red, the low red zone in the kind of the rushing touchdowns. We got down there against Detroit. We had those 4 passes from the one. Brian, I think, talked about it a couple weeks ago that, hey, if we had to do over again with the time on our pocket, maybe we'd pop a couple runs in there. So getting down there and throwing it 4 times, and then, we've really gotten a lot of loaded boxes down in that low red zone area. So it's been, mixed stuff. They got extra hat in there, and then there's really no space because they're not defending any depth of the end zone. So that's been kind of a low red zone issue. The run game in general, we've missed a few explosives that were out there. It feels like there's a couple ones where if we make that guy miss or kind of falling off at the point of attack. So it's really been a little bit of a thing here, a thing there. And then a couple of the games like the Chargers, we ended up throwing it the whole fourth quarter. And so a myriad of reasons. We think the run game's going to, pick back up. And this is certainly a very good run defense as well. So we're not going in to face some team that's given up a lot of rushing explosives either. So it's a good challenge for us again for the, third or fourth straight week.
It seemed as if the passing game has picked up at the same time as your numbers at receiver have dwindled a little bit. Do you think there's a connection there at all? Does having fewer options at receiver force you guys to be a little bit more creative with what you're doing?
To kind of force it to Calvin a little bit, maybe a little bit. I think there's part of maybe Will a little bit and all of us a little bit. We're trying to make sure the ball was getting distributed, D-Hop getting a couple, Calvin getting a couple, those kind of things. And now that we've kind of gotten into a little bit more of a rhythm, it's not I wouldn't call it a reset offensively, but just kind of getting back to playing a bunch of formations and moving guys around and kind of making the defense have to adjust to where we're moving all the different bodies. And I think it's kind of paid off for us in that regard. And also those guys are making plays when it's gone somewhere else. Calvin's made a bunch of plays, and then Nick obviously has had this, great 4 or 5 week stretch here. And, the guy who's probably suffered a little bit was Tyler. Some of his targets have been down with the injuries, but he ended up getting those 2 catches at the end of the game. And now Bryce is gone, so it's really been those 4 that have kind of stepped up, and we want them to keep growing. And I think the consistency of having all those guys in there too has probably helped both the quarterbacks that have played.
Anything different with Isaiah's alignment compared to Leroy or
No.
Nick or anybody else you've had out there?
No, I feel bad for Isaiah, for it to go that way. The one that the last one to Nick in the fourth quarter where he got called, I would say that one he was pretty far back there. The other ones, they called them, so they're penalties, that kind of can't go back and cry over kind of spilled milk kind of deal. But that one, the one against the last one, fourth quarter, I thought he was pretty far back there, and that was the one where I think it was kind of a no doubter from us or from them. But no, we teach our tackles, we take our alignment off the center. When you see the problems in a tackle alignment, the problem is when the tackle takes his split off the guard's feet or the guard's belt line, because he's already back from the center and then they get further back. So everyone's got to find the center, and you line up off the center's feet and belt line. So you're making sure your head's across. So that's kind of our technique. That's the coaching point on that for us. So he did it, we thought for the most part, and there's a couple ones that they felt he was too far back. So
Feet and the belt line are one and the same.
correct, because nobody was he's in when the center's in his stance, his feet are straight under his hips. So that's kind of the demarcation line for the tackles.
5 minutes left, your guys are down 10, still huddling and taking up the whole play clock. Why aren't things sped up there in a way that you could have more of a chance with the clock?
There were a couple ones we wanted to get going a little faster, and then you get there was the one where we got the incompletion, so obviously huddling out the incompletion. The one thing Minnesota does is they make you so personnel specific, where they're getting all these kind of matchups. So we really wanted to make sure we had the right protection call in, just to make sure we had the kind of those matchups. But looking back, definitely, I think we thought we could have sped up a little bit and played at a little different tempo as well.
Is there a way to get faster about getting those calls in? Is that something that comes with time as you guys play more together?
I think so. I think as you get in some of these tougher defenses and you got to play some of those kind of games of how you're marrying your protections and still helping the tackle, and we've got kind of a lot of factors that go in to each of those, especially against the Minnesota Flores coach defense, where they give you so many fronts, so many pressure looks, that we can do it faster. And maybe we've talked about code wording some things, and just so they can get out and those guys kind of know those things. So it's a process as we build it and as it comes up situationally. So we're just still growing.
Do you find that lately you're having to sacrifice some of the tight ends' involvement in the passing game for them to be more involved in blocking?
A little bit. I mean, that's the way to help the tackles, is the tight ends and the backs, and we do it with receivers as well. So, when you're helping a tackle or you're helping anybody on the line, you're kind of sacrificing field spacing and separation and those kind of things. So it's been, an issue, but no, last week we played a little bit more in 12 personnel. So that helped. And we'd like to do that a little bit going forward. Is if you're in 12, you kind of don't have they kind of can set it to the different tight ends and kind of set some different structures that way. So getting more tight ends on the field would probably, obviously help the production as well.
This Houston team has really been susceptible to those big explosive.
Can you start over?
Sorry, you're
Yeah,
good.
you're good.
The Houston defense, specifically the secondary, has
Yep.
been really susceptible over the past couple of weeks to some big-time passing explosive plays.
Yep.
And, you guys have Will certainly seeming to connect on a lot of those over the past couple of games. What's the challenge of wanting Will to continue to throw those, but also, as Callahan said, kind of doing more of the mundane things in the passing game a lot more, consistently?
There's, I would say, two parts. One is recognizing the looks that when those shots are there. That's what he did even on the one that got called back to Calvin on the third down on the illegal formation. He knew the look. He knew exactly where he wanted to go. He knew how they were going to buzz out. They kind of busted their coverage a little bit. We're getting to throw it down. He knew he was going. So when those shots are there, we got to hit them. The second thing with this team like this and these 4-down jet rush teams is it is a foot race between the receiver to get to his spot against the defensive line. So, that's where we really got to measure in what shots we're taking, because their DBs know that they've got a great pass rush and that they're coming up the field. And so that's kind of feel like when they haven't gotten home, those guys have been guessing, squatting, and those are where a lot of those explosives have come. So it's that balance of, okay, can we beat their pass rush? Can our receivers beat their pass rush down the field?
I know the sack numbers are still a little higher than you would like, but how has Will's processing and the internal clock in his head, how has that gone the last couple of weeks?
I thought it's been much improved just from that standpoint, even from the end of the Charger game, where it was in that kind of 2-minute drill and we were throwing it every down, and he was kind of holding it, especially when we got on that second and long and third and long where he took those back-to-back big hits. And you watched it on, go back to that first third down, but there's a couple other ones in that Minnesota game where he sees it, okay, they're dropping out, or I'm just going to take it, put the ball on play. And so that's really helped the line or helped our sack numbers and all our, sacks are an offensive problem. We always say the line, but so those things have been a big growth point. And this week, kind of that same challenge is there with their pass rush of you have to understand just the whole totality of the picture of how to get the ball out and when there's shots to hold on to it. And, there'll be some times when, especially on third down, hey, maybe you can hold it an extra tick and see if we can get an explosive, especially if we're behind the chains. But it's been a good balance.
Last one. I don't think there's a team in the league that a defense is better at stopping teams when they're in 3rd and 7 or longer. Houston, I think they've only allowed 10 of those.
Yeah, it's not fun tape. It's not fun tape to watch.
It's a horror movie, and so when you guys are a team that has been behind the sticks more than you like, and you're decent at 3rd and 7 plus, but you don't want to be there. Is there any further emphasis this week on staying on time, and from a play calling standpoint, do you approach a game differently?
For sure. We're always trying to stay on schedule. So our 1st and 2nd down plan is always to try to get them on schedule, stay, 4 yards for us on 1st down is an efficient play. So if you get to 1st and 10 to 2nd and 6, we look at that as a win for the offense, as you look statistically. Then if you want to see a real horror film, watch them on 2nd and 8 plus what they've done to teams. It is so if you get behind on 1st down and then you get behind on 2nd down, it is these guys just pin their ears back, and they take the back away. They get 5-man rushes. They get you all one-on-one to everybody else, and they try to make you hold the ball. So yes, the plan wholeheartedly is stay efficient on 1st and 2nd down. If you do that, you give yourself a chance the rest of the drive. But if 1st down is, say you lose 2 or you only get 1 or those kind of things, your chances against this defense and the way they play and their aggressiveness, your chance for success goes way down.
You lose a guy like Jack. How much obviously does that hurt the guys and what you try to do defensively, but also what you see out of Jerome getting the extra playing time there on Sunday?
Yeah, it's unfortunately for Jack getting hurt. I mean, you look over him over the last 2 weeks, he's had 30-something tackles and is probably playing some of his best football. Second guy we've lost out the middle. But we just have to adjust. We have to move on. All the guys that have come in that have been backups that are playing extensive minutes right now, we expect them to come in and do what they're supposed to do, be accountable. And then with Jerome coming, he's played a lot in this league. He started on in Miami for years and has a lot of experience. So it's about him just going out there and playing our style of football and being dialed in, looking at the right things and coming downhill and hitting people.
We had turned to him, even before Jack got hurt, he was playing the bulk of that first half. What prompted that switch?
No, well, we just wanted, over the last couple of weeks, we wanted to play Jerome a little bit more. And it was an opportunity last week to get him on the field just to see, what he could do, how well he's going to play within the defense. And originally the game plan was to play him a little bit more on third down in coverage situations. But he went in, he was playing well. So we kept him in there. And then obviously we rotated back to Gibby. And Gibby was supposed to play the whole second half. And unfortunately he just got hurt.
What would you describe, maybe Jerome's, what are the strengths that he plays with on Sundays?
Well, he's a guy that processes fast. He can see things happen, develop. I think one of his greatest attributes is playing in coverage. He can play man-to-man coverage on tight ends, and he's a good zone dropper. So it's good to see that. And then he's always going to be where he's supposed to be in a run game. You lose a little bit of a thump coming downhill with him, but he's always going to be there, and he's going to be in position to make plays.
Devondre was telling us yesterday he feels like he's close to getting that sack. He's close to being able to finish a play. Just how close do you feel like he is, and what are the next steps to finishing for him?
Well, if you look at that first half, we were around the quarterback, and he was around the quarterback. Honestly, he missed 2 sacks. And when you look at those drives on some of those sacks that we missed, we would have been off the field. And he's right there. I mean, he has total confidence in himself. We have total confidence in him as an organization, and he continues just to get better and better and better. And, this week will be a great test for him, and I can't wait to see him go out there and play.
What's made the difference for him to get to the point where he's almost there, and what will make the difference for him to get there?
Well, he believes in himself even more now. He's had the experience of playing early, playing well within the defense, but he sees himself beating guards. He sees himself beating centers at times, and he understands that he can get more out of the tank. And like I say, every week with him, the more he grows and develops, another off season with him, getting in his best tip-top shape that he can be in, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, and you see it on a weekly basis.
What do you tell Jarvis, I guess, after a game when I guess he's aggressive, got called a couple of times, you want to just keep playing like he's playing, anything he needs to change?
No, I mean, obviously the penalties, we don't want the penalties. One of the penalties I can argue, the first one, but he has to be better at the top of the route. He has to get his hands down after he makes initial contact. So we're working on his hand placement. We really, all week we've been trying to get him to get his hands down at the initial contact. The thing is, the penalties, yes, we want him to be aggressive, but the penalties end up hurting the team. You look at the last game in the second half, the reason they got a third down was off of penalty. They wouldn't have had a third down going into that third and fourth quarter if it wasn't for that, and then that penalty end up hurting the team. So we have to get it out of him. He has to be intentional. He has to work on it. But I don't want him to lose his edge of aggressiveness, because you've seen him go against some of the best receivers in the National Football League, and he doesn't back down. And we want that aggressiveness, but the penalties we have to get off of him.
How do you feel like Darryl Baker has played in filling in over on the other side?
Yeah, Darryl has been playing solid. When you watch him, every week he's making plays. He's where he's supposed to be. He's another guy that's gaining confidence. He's challenging receivers, especially at the catch point. So we like where he's at, and then he's buying in even more to the culture where he's becoming even a more aggressive tackler. And he's all in, and those young guys, all the young guys that have played, have been put in the positions to play right now due to injuries or growth. I see a lot in them. It's a good starting block. They're creating a good foundation, and I like where they're at.
Cedric Gray is at health-wise, and what would it take for him to play and contribute?
Well, like I say, most people, he obviously missed a lot of training camp and everything else. The number one thing when you haven't played is playing on special teams. So, if he gets the opportunity to play on special teams, you make a few plays, everybody starts to notice. And then, we have depth players that have been there, linebacker. If he gets out there and he's active and he plays well and other things happen, he'll maybe get some snaps on defense. But right now, he has to earn his way to play on defense.
Joe Mixon has 10 rushing touchdowns in just 8 games played.
Yeah.
What has led to his success with the new team finding some immediate success in Houston?
He's always been a hell of a back to me. I think they feature him a lot more in Houston, where he's at now. He's a hell of a zone running back, has great vision, great cutback. And then obviously he's always had the explosiveness, and he can make guys miss. So he's a guy that we got to be very conscious of. They want to establish the run game early, and he's been giving them the opportunity to do that. So we got to surround him with some hats. We have to have population to the ball and try to bottle him up early.
What were your takeaways from that playoff game against Houston last year? I know you guys had a lot of success against CJ. What are kind of some of the tricks of the trade to make that happen?
Yeah, he was a rookie last year. Sometimes you forget because he played so well. He's a hell of a quarterback. He was a rookie. I won't talk about some of the things that we did to kind of frustrate him, but we played well as a whole team. It wasn't just about him. We played well as a team, and we had a very good team last year.
Guys, good.
What do you think the potential is? The backup corners have done very well.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have talked about them. But if you get Legarius and Owuzie back healthy, that was the blueprint from the start. What do you think this defense could be?
You know what? With all the pieces together, you coming in with the vision that the defense could be elite. But you have to put in the work, and you have to be out there doing it. I have high vision, high hopes for those young men, and I can't wait to see them out there. They're competitive, but the one thing that we're doing is we're creating depth, and we're creating young guys that can go out there and play that you can count on if anything's happened. So, I can't wait for those young men to get back. They'll help the team tremendously because of their experience, because of their wealth of knowledge, their demeanor, the way they play, their enthusiasm about the game. So when they come back, we're going to welcome them back with open arms.
What did you say to Mike after the penalty that was called in the end zone on what looked like a clean play?
Keep playing. Some things we can't control, right? And unfortunately, we got the penalty, right? And you can say what you want. You sort of played. Did you think it was a penalty? Okay. All right. Well, tell him to keep playing. I don't know what else to coach him on that. He was in the right position. The ball was in the air, and he did what we preach: attack the ball with violence. And if you're not going to hit the ball, you separate the ball from the man, and that's what he did.